Hey family, welcome back to
OnCloudLindsay.
So I know we have been missing for a little bit, and we do apologize for that, but we're gonna tell you why. We have been doing a little bit of traveling, not like the vacation type of traveling, not the one that we like video and put out there, but we have been doing some traveling and been stuck in quarantine, so we haven't had a chance to do and put out any videos. But we're going to tell you a little bit about our trip and how it went.
Alright, so before we even booked the flight, we had to make some preparations. We couldn't just go online, book a ticket, and get ready to travel. Things were so much different, and we had to make a lot of calls and did a lot of research. So Trish, you want to tell them a little bit more about it?
So we left the UAE, and as you can see from our background, we're in a different location.
Right.
Yes, and it's not a hotel. We are currently in Canada. Yay! So, traveling during a pandemic is a lot different from regular travel. So if you haven't been anywhere for the last year and a half, for the last year, if you haven't traveled, if you've been just stuck inside, then stay home. Actually,
Unless it's urgent,
yeah.
or if you really have to
unless
travel.
you really need
Because
to,
all of this, it was
so
really
much.
too much.
It's just so much to get on a plane these days. One of the things that we had to do before leaving out, of course, we had to contact the airlines to make sure that we could actually travel together. Because like I said, we're in Canada. I'm Canadian, he's not. So we had to make sure that he would be able to actually get on the flight with just a tourist visa. Before booking the ticket, we needed to confirm all these things, and of course the other thing, because I am pregnant, we also had to make sure that we could actually get on the plane, because I think we flew Emirates, and the Emirates restriction or flight cutoff is I think 34 weeks or 34 to 36 weeks, I think. 29 after 29 weeks, you need a medical certificate that says that you are fit to travel.
Because it's a long flight, 15 hours.
Yeah, up to 15 hours, a long haul flight. So you need a medical certificate that says you would be okay, in good health, and able to travel for that amount of time. After 34 weeks, I think, or 32 weeks, you need to have not only a medical certificate, but you need to have airline approval form. So the airline you need to print out a form online and fill it out, get it stamped and signed by your doctor, along with the medical report that says basically you are able to do a long haul flight.
Right. So one of the other things we had to do before booking the flight, we had to book a government approved facility to do the 3 days mandatory quarantine. And we heard that it was going to be 2,000 Canadian, and trust me, it wasn't far from it. And we tried to find a cheaper option, and the cheapest option went back up to about what, 1,500?
1,500.
About 1,500. So it's around that amount. So you have to have that money put aside if you're traveling to Canada anytime now. And that's a whole different experience, which we will talk about in another video. So we had to book that, call around, make sure they are approved. Well, there's a list, right?
There's a list on the on the
which website?
Canada.ca. Under the COVID section. There's a list of government approved facilities around the airport in Toronto that you can select from. And like he said, Trudeau wasn't joking when he said it's going to cost you $2,000 for 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's just to find out that you already find out what you already know, which is your COVID negative.
Right, because 72 hours before the flight, we had to do a COVID test.
So we're boarding the flight, and they're checking as we go along. So we're boarding the flight negative. We get off the flight still negative, but they still want to do a test. And before we get too far from the airport, we need to be in a secure location until we get those results.
Right.
Until we get that second negative test.
Right.
I think we booked the flight. We booked our tickets maybe 2 weeks before.
Thereabouts.
Yeah, about 2 weeks before. Our departure date, and I mean, we halfway expected the flight to be crowded.
You did?
I don't know.
I wasn't expecting it to be crowded.
I felt like I expected it to be full because booking a ticket so late, usually the flights are full.
Yeah.
When we were booking, like, you know, you're able to select your seats and things like that, and it wasn't. We were able to get
it was evenly spaced out, and so on. So it wasn't difficult to book and get a comfortable seat. And the important thing is that it seemed as if it was only people traveling together who were able to sit together in the same room. All right, so going back now to the checking in process. So after we booked the ticket and it's time to go, we went in, of course. How many hours early?
So the regular hours,
we went in 3 hours early and
so we
barely made it in time for the flight.
Yeah, we had a 9 o'clock flight. So not even barely made it. The flight departed like an hour later.
Delayed, right.
The flight was delayed for like an hour. So because the process from checking in outside and then going through not security, checking in again,
just checking in
at the gate,
right,
it was
getting ready to board,
such a long process. So we started, of course, checking in our luggage. We did online check-in first of all, so we thought that maybe we would do baggage drop and
move a bit faster,
right?
But that was not the case. So while checking in, the first thing they told us we had to do was to download the ArriveCan app. And we had to register, fill in everything before we could check in. Now, we've called the airline several times. And did we call the airport as well?
No, just the airlines.
Just the airlines. And we tried to find out, but we didn't get that information until we were actually there. So that took up a lot of time. So if you plan to travel to Canada, one of the first things you need to do before getting to the airport is to download the app and fill it out and register so you have it ready. Because you're going to be using it for the whole 14 days quarantine in Canada. So we did that. And then the next thing we had to do, well, me, because I'm Jamaican, I had to prove my relationship to Trish because we're traveling together and she's Canadian. So, and I thought they were a bit uncomfortable because they didn't know how to ask. You remember the guy came up, like, you hit her.
Like, what are you,
like, what are you doing?
What's this relationship?
I'm like, she's my wife.
We're married. And then that kind of eased him a little bit. He goes, do you have a marriage certificate?
Right.
So if you are married, walk with your married. If you're married and both of you are not the same, or not Canadian or not the same nationality, walk with your marriage certificate.
Right.
Because it's definitely needed every step of the way. Every time somebody looks at your passport and looks at both of you traveling together, they're gonna ask you for your marriage certificate every single time.
Check.
Right.
Come back. Okay.
I'm not quite sure what they needed to do with the certificate because the agent took our passports and the marriage certificate, and he needed to take it somewhere else to get
verified.
I don't know if to verify, but to get some kind of approval sticker or something. I'm not quite sure.
That he should have put on my passport, which he didn't put on my passport, So when I went to board, I had to go through all that again.
Right.
So that's why we had to take out the marriage certificate so many times, because they didn't put the sticker on my passport.
To say that we are traveling together.
And that we're married.
So, I mean, and you can see he was a little bit, it made me wonder if we were the first couple that he had checked in. Because he was like, marriage certificate, and he took it and he ran across across the way to somebody else, and then he came back saying something about that person didn't do it, or the person needed to come here, but the person wouldn't come over to the counter, and the girl next to him was telling him, no, they're not gonna come, you have to take it over there. And then he took it over there again, and then standing at that counter,
walking around with the paper in his hands like this,
right? Getting the ticket, something that's supposed to be like baggage check, drop off your bags, free ticket, like 5-10 minutes and go.
Took us more than half an hour for a very long time.
More than half an hour. Trying to
just checking. We were just trying to check in.
Just checking in.
So if you are going to travel again anytime soon, make sure you go in extra early, just in case anything like this comes up. Any last minute thing that you need to do before you are able to check in.
Right. And for the ArriveCan app, everybody needs to do it.
Everybody needs to do it.
Not just because we're he's a tourist.
Canadians, non-Canadians,
everybody needs to have the app.
ArriveCan.
Yes, we'll put the name somewhere on here so that you can check it out.
Yeah.
Going through there after we did finally get through there, it was smooth after that, up until we got to the gate. Now, it's been a while since I've been through the airport. My favorite place in the airport, duty free.
Of course.
Yes, I did buy things. yes, I did buy. Judge not lest you be judged. I don't care. I did buy things. That was the highlight of my whole entire trip, is going through the duty free, walking through, especially if you have traveled Emirates out of Dubai, that Terminal 1 duty free. Oh, beautiful.
Okay, let's continue. All I got was some McDonald's to eat because we didn't have breakfast. That was most important for me. Let's continue.
All right.
So we went through, got to the gate. As we said, they checked our documents again, and then we went through, and the flight was pretty normal.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry. Getting through again, we had mentioned that the flight was delayed for like an hour. There was a lot of people boarding the flight, and even though when you're on the plane it didn't seem like it, but there's a lot of people boarding, and everybody had to go through do your COVID check again. So you do it outside at the ticket counter, and then when you're inside, they're checking your COVID results again.
And for us, the marriage certificate or whatever documents you need to prove.
Because there were some students traveling, they needed the documents from their school. Then they're doing temperature checks. They're doing all of that stuff before you are even able to board the plane.
Right.
So that's really why it took such a long time to for us to actually get on the way.
And that was it. After we got on the plane, as I was saying, that everything was normal. We didn't all we had to do was keep the mask on at all times except when we were eating. And we wore masks and face shields just to be a little bit more safe. Right. So, and that was it. We just did what normal people do on flights. We eat, we sleep, watch movies, and until the time passed.
They're still serving food. They're still serving regular food. Everything is regular. Still get your 3 meals, 2 hot meals and a snack in between. Unlimited water and juice, whatever you want. They're still providing all of that in flight.
Right. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned it. I don't remember. Did you say our rows were the rows? They seem to be people who were traveling together sat together. So it was 3-4-3. So in our row, it was just the two of us and an empty seat. In the row in front of us, the same thing. Someone was behind us,
just
one person. And then even in the middle, there was maybe 2 people or 3 people, depending on how many of them were traveling together. And so it was a fairly empty flight.
Right.
And one of the other things that I noticed when we were booking the flight, we were booking on a 380. When we were booking the ticket, I think it was a 380, the upstairs and downstairs one. And then when we did get to the airport, realized that we had downgraded to a 777. So we were on a smaller plane. I'm assuming because there was not a lot of people traveling. And walking through, like taking a walk up and down the cabin, realized like really it wasn't a full flight at all.
So now we are in Canada. Welcome to Canada. We got here and the airport was empty. It was just us alone going through immigration, only the people from our flight. And so we went through fairly quickly. And again, going through immigrations, I had to take out my marriage certificate again to prove that we're married. And that was it. Once you have your document, your COVID test, your proof of relationship if you're coming for family reunion, or if you're coming as a student or whatever else, you just need the documents to show that.
And the ArriveCan app and the your hotel reservation.
And
those are 4 things that you need.
Right.
We'll run a list. We'll run a list right here.
All right. So we went through went to baggage claim, but on your way to picking up your baggage, what you'll notice is that there are barcodes everywhere telling you to scan. The airport has Wi-Fi, so you can connect to the Wi-Fi and scan it and register, because that's what you need to do before you can take the COVID test at the airport.
Yes. You register onto Switch Health.
Yes, Switch Health.
SwitchHealth.ca. That's where you will get your COVID test results from. That's where you register to do your airport COVID test and your follow-up COVID test.
All right. So the thing is, though, when you get to the COVID testing line, which is right at the exit, there will be 2 lines. So if you had problems registering on Switch Health, then you'll join that line, which many people don't want to do because that's 2 lines. And then someone will help you, and then you'll have to join the other line to go and do the test. Whereas if you register before by scanning and doing everything before you get to the line, you just join one line and just go straight to doing the test. But it was pretty slow.
It was. It was such a long wait in the line.
And I was a bit surprised when they gave us the test kits in the plastic bag with the thing to take to the nurse ourselves. I was like,
yeah, that's something different.
So I was a bit surprised.
You wait in the line, and halfway through the line, you get to a point where somebody else is registering you, or not registering
they
you,
just check your passport
your ID,
and give you,
and then checking your ID and matching it up to a test kit, and then they give you your test kit. And at first I got the test, like, what am I supposed to do with this? And he was like, oh, just take it to the nurse. I was like, take it to the nurse?
Yeah.
The nurse don't have a test kit sitting on their neck? It was kind of different. It was a different, it was different. Yeah, it was different. And then, of course, we finally made it up to the nurse. Like, that process alone, and as I said, we were the only flight that had come in at that time. So what it seems like, the airport is staggering flights maybe every hour or every 2 hours or so. Before planes were landing all the time, and there was like, it was always crowded. But one flight land, and when you went down to baggage claim, you can clearly see that a flight had come in before, and they had gone out and done everything already. So in the line to do the COVID test, it was just our flight that was in that line, waiting.
Yeah, and that was it. We did the test, and on our way out, we got another test kit, which we'll show here. Another test kit to do at home. No, at first I thought it was going to be unsupervised. We could just do whatever we want, and said we did it, and that would have been it. But that was definitely not the case. But we'll talk about that in the other video. We'll share our whole quarantine experience and what it was like, and how they followed up, and all the different things that happened. So that's traveling. That's really the gist of traveling during this pandemic. If you to Canada, because we're not sure about other places right now.
Traveling to Canada. If you're going other places, maybe it'll be a little bit different. Right. And if you're going on vacation, it might also be a little bit different. But that's really all it is and all it takes. Just prepare if you are coming here, and you plan to stay more than, well, first of all, plan to stay more than 2 weeks, because you have to be in quarantine for 14 days anyways. So plan to stay longer than that so that you can actually experience Canada, or have time to actually do things, go around the place. But that's it.
So that's where we have been. I know quite a few persons have reached out to us asking us, where are you guys? We miss you. We miss you too. But we are just trying to settle in, readjust, get this quarantine isolation thing out of the way, and so that we can start recording again. So we'll see you. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions, or if you have any follow-up questions about anything that we've said, I think we have covered everything. But if you have any questions or want a little bit more detailed explanation for something, please just leave us a comment down below.
Yes, we can do a follow-up and respond to these questions in the other video when we are talking about the quarantine experience. So any questions at all, don't be afraid to ask us in the comment section. And as usual, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And see you next time on Cloud Lindsay.